There's something intangible about his presentation that is the thing that holds it all together and makes it work so incredibly well.
Bob Dylan. Finally! Something I've been waiting for a long time, and I know many of you have been just aching for me to listen to this musician, composer, poet, I understand. Well, today is the day, and I am so eager to dive straight in, but I want to go through the process. First, Vlad has given me some paragraphs to read, and he has told me that for this song, my first listen should be watching a live performance. Well, I haven't watched many live performances intentionally on this channel in this journey because usually a studio recording has better sound. And because of my background, I'm very attuned to the sound quality. But Vlad tells me that this is important and I'll go with it. I'm looking forward to seeing what it sounds like and watching the live performance. And then, of course, when I go back, I will listen to a studio recording and make my comments from there. Bob Dylan is an American singer-songwriter. Generally regarded as one of the greatest songwriters ever, Dylan has been a major figure in popular culture over his 60-year career. Much of his most celebrated work dates from the 1960s, became anthems for the civil rights and anti-war movements. His lyrics during this period incorporated political, social, philosophical, and literary influences, defying pop music conventions and appealing to the burgeoning counterculture. Okay, so he basically has it all. He has sold more than 145 million records. 145 million records, making him one of the best-selling musicians ever. He has received numerous awards, including the Presidential Medal of Freedom, 10 Grammy Awards, a Golden Globe Award, and an Academy Award. Dylan has been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame, and the Songwriters Hall of Fame. The Pulitzer Prize Board in 2008 awarded him a special citation for his profound impact on popular music and American culture, marked by lyrical compositions of extraordinary poetic power. In 2016, Dylan was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature for having created new poetic expressions within the great American song tradition. That's pretty impressive. The Pulitzer Prize is kind of surprising, and I guess for a musician would be kind of a special prize to win because that's about literature, not necessarily about music. Like a Rolling Stone was released on July 20, 1965. Critics have described Like a Rolling Stone as revolutionary in its combination of musical elements, the youthful, cynical sound of Dylan's voice, and the directness of the question, how does it feel? It completed the transformation of Dylan's image from folk singer to rock star and is considered one of the most influential compositions in post-war popular music. Well, that's kind of around the time of the Beatles, early Beatles that I've been listening to. So this is going to be a nice thing to hear another great artist from that era and notice, well, of course the Beatles are British, Dylan is American. I'm sure that they're different, but it's going to be fun to hear another significant artist from that era. Rolling Stone listed it at number 1 on their 2004 and 2010 500 Greatest Songs of All Time lists. It has been covered by many artists, from the Jimi Hendrix Experience and the Rolling Stones to the Wailers and Green Day. Hold on. Listed it at number 1. That took me a moment to process. Number 1 on 2 lists, one from 2004 and one from 2010. At an auction in 2014, Dylan's handwritten lyrics to the song fetched $2 million, a world record for a popular music manuscript. Well, I am super eager to dive in. Let me just remind you that if you want other series, and as well as other videos that can't go public on YouTube, you can always check out my Coffee and Patreon pages. I'm just going to say that now and get it out of the way because I want to be paying attention to this from here on out. And also, I need to say that this recording, this live recording I'm listening to, is from the same year that the song was written. So maybe that's why I'm supposed to be listening to it. Anyway, let's dive straight in and have some fun.
Once upon a time, you dressed so fine, threw the bumps of dime in your prime. Then you, people call, saying, beware, doll, you're bound to fall. You thought they were all hitting you. You used to laugh about everybody that was hanging out. Now you don't talk so loud. Now you don't seem so proud about having to be scrounging your next meal. How does it feel? How does it feel to be on your own with no direction home, like a complete unknown, like a rolling stone? Why you gone to the finest school? All right, Miss Lonely, but you know you only used to get juiced in the head. Nobody's ever taught you how to live out on the street, and now you're gonna have to get used to it. You say you'd never compromise with the mystery tramp, but now you realize he's not setting any alibis as you stare to the vacuum of his
So, while the Beatles were singing about falling in love and all the many love songs, Bob Dylan is singing about social issues and really going quite deeply into it. It's so interesting hearing the difference between the two, as well as the similarities. I guess one of the things that I feel is a similarity or a common point is the incredible naturalness in the way that they present their voices. I'm thinking of Bob Dylan and John Lennon. And I don't want to make this just a comparison of the two, not at all. But because I've spent so much time with the Beatles, and I'm also trying to put the pieces together and build the picture of the landscape as things developed and different eras and how they progressed, I noticed certain things about certain eras. And I guess one of the things that I like about this era that I'm hearing in the ones that are considered the greats of the time, like Bob Dylan and, let's say, John Lennon, the two side by side, neither of them are manipulating their voices or doing anything other than a very ordinary approach to singing. And they're not, in some ways, they're hardly singing. They're simply communicating. And their voice is, and the music is simply a vehicle for communication, for expression. But you don't think of it as an act in itself, of itself. And I guess there's something very special about that. Now, I'm going to set aside the comparison because I want to pay attention to Bob Dylan himself. And the next thing I'm going to do is listen to the song again with the score in front of me. And it's going to be a studio recording. And I'll pause and make comments along the way. But that was a really, I guess I should say, potent song. It really had, and in a very simple way too. There was nothing pretentious about it. There was nothing put on or there was no effort about it. No effort at all. And so it felt so natural and easy and immediate and relatable and ordinary in a special way. You can have something especially ordinary or special in its ordinariness. And I'm not saying that his music or his career is ordinary, but the way we feel it. And that is incredibly special. All right, let's switch to the score and the studio recording.
Once upon a time you dressed so fine, threw the bumps of time in your prime. Then you, people call, say beware doll, you're bound to fall. You thought they were all kidding you. You used to laugh about everybody that was hanging out. Now you don't talk so loud.
It sounds very, very different from the live recording. I kind of need to go back and get myself oriented because it took me off guard a bit. I really like that very first downbeat. The preparation that came before it makes it feel so solid when it arrives. Kind of like if you bounce a ball and then it drops. And that drop is so free and deep. It's a deep drop in. I guess it's achieved by that preliminary strike on the drums. Bum, bum, bum. You hear bum, bum, bum. And it's like a ball, bounce, bounce, down. And then it lands on the floor. But something about it, I didn't pick it up in the live recording. I don't even know if it was there. But now here, when that first came in, oh, it feels good. And off we go.
Once upon a time you dressed so fine, threw the bumps of dime in your prime. Then you, people call, say beware doll, you're bound to fall. You thought they were all kidding you.
Also notice behind everything this bass that starts on C, and we are basically just, oops, let me set this a bit stronger. And one of the things I noticed about this song from the very beginning was how incredibly simple the harmonies were. There was nothing that really jumped out, and I guess I begin to see why the Beatles were considered so innovative. At the same time, it's so effective here. Just this solid harmony basis, which is, well, we have a C chord here, and then it walks up. This is what I wanted to point out. We're established on C when we drop in, ba ba bum, and then bum ba ba bum ba bum. We're just staying on C all this time, and then we start to climb up. Bum 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 bum, and then we've climbed up 5 notes. Now we're on G, and we are living there on G for a little bit, and it feels a bit like we're climbing up a mountain, but it's not really in your face. All of this is behind, and I'm going to get into his voice and what he's achieving with it. But first I want to point out some of the backdrop that I pick up. And this is one of the things, is the way this bass line is so incredibly simple. Basically a note, walk ourselves up to the next note. Now we're on G. Now we're back here. Staying on the G. Now we finally get to go to an F here. Back and forth between F. And once you start pointing your ears towards that bass line, it gives shape to all of this sound that is happening behind his voice. Because that was my first impression, is we have a voice and we have sound around it, which is kind of making it sound a bit musical as he's telling a story. Or because his voice is, in this song, it's interesting to me to see how he sings in a fairly speaking, very much in a speaking style, in a declamatory speaking style. Once upon a time, you dressed so fine, threw the bums a dime in your prime, didn't you? You almost don't need the music. You just speak it. People call to say, beware doll, you're bound to fall. You thought they were all kidding you. And that's how he goes through practically the entire song. And so to get the musical effect, we have the instruments behind, but they don't interfere with the telling of the story. They are simply there to kind of support the pitch and give us the feeling, the experience of music rather than just a dry voice. Dry meaning nothing around it. The music provides this lushness, this backdrop for the voice.
You used to laugh about everybody that was hanging out. Now you don't talk so loud.
Now we're walking back down.
Now you don't seem so proud. But
Isn't it interesting how even in all of this incredible simplicity and very basic harmonic design, if we point our ears towards the bass, we start we start to notice things that actually it's doing more than just create a sound world around the lyrics. Because now we're hearing that it was climbing upwards, as he says, once upon a time you dressed so fine, through the bumps of dime in your prime, didn't you? People called to say, beware, doll, you're bound to fall. You thought they were all kidding you. It's moving upwards at the beginning as the stage is set with this person being rather fine, high, certainly not on the lowest level of society. And then, when it says, now you don't talk so loud, now you don't seem so proud, this is the point at which it starts to move downwards. Stepping down, stepping down, stepping down. Up, down, down, down. Again, a very, very basic line and harmonic scheme. There is nothing shocking here harmonically. We have G chords, we have C chords, we have F chords, a couple minors, all right, we have an E minor here. But they're simple, they belong in the key. We're not going anywhere dramatic. It's all about the voice. And yet behind the voice, the instruments are supporting the story. Let's listen again from the beginning and notice how, no, actually not from the beginning. I'm going to start here. And let's notice how, as we transition to this part of the story, where you don't talk so loud, you don't seem so proud, this person has moved down the ladder, so to speak, and the bass line is moving accordingly.
you used to laugh about everybody that was hanging out. Now you don't talk so loud. Now you don't seem so proud about having to be scrounging your next meal. How does it feel? How does it feel to be without a home?
This guitar strumming. It's hard to figure out, is it a piano or guitar, unless you start listening closely. Because it almost has a little bit of a honky-tonk piano feel to it. But then you listen closer and you realize that's a guitar. Bum, ba, ba, bum, bum, ba, ba, bum, bum, ba, ba, bum, strumming the chords.
How does it feel? How does it feel to be without a home? Like a complete unknown, like a rolling stone.
And now I have to comment on the lyrics and his presentation of the story, because that really seems to be what this song is all about. And while I am not making this a comparison of Dylan and the Beatles, I have to appreciate the difference between the two. When the Beatles were singing "She Loves You," or "I Just Want to Hold Your Hand," or "Yeah, yeah, 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 yeah," Dylan is digging into some pretty serious social issues. He's digging into the life of somebody who didn't expect to end up like this. He is revealing what it's like to be in this position. He is making us think about whether we are sympathetic towards a person like this, or whether we are kind of distant, critical, wanting to keep them at arm's length. This question, how does it feel? How does it feel? When he says, "Now you don't talk so loud, you don't seem so proud," it's almost as if he's kind of putting them in their place and saying, "I told you so, and I really don't think very highly of you." But then it goes on, how about having to be scrounging your next meal? How does it feel? How does it feel? Are we supposed to feel some mockery there? Are we supposed to feel some sympathy? Are we supposed to take some action to prevent this sort of thing? Are we supposed to watch over our shoulders to make sure it doesn't happen to us? All the way he has framed this story brings all of that in. And his delivery is so undramatic. Simply saying it just as it is, no emotion, no trying to create an emotional response in the listener through the music. It is simply through the pointedness of the words and the clarity of the delivery that we feel the impact. And it could very easily be boring and dull, because you have to walk a fine line between making something just incredibly ordinary and uninteresting and actually riveting your audience with the fact that this is ordinary. That's a huge achievement. And I'm not even halfway through my second listen of this piece, but I'm beginning to feel that attraction, that pull towards something like this, which is so simply and cleanly addressed to the listener. It's really amazing.
But you know you only used to get juiced in it.
Again, a reference to her high breathing.
Out on the street, and now you're gonna have to get used to it. You say you never compromise with the mystery tramp, but now you realize he's not selling vacuum of his eyes and say
to comment on the way he, I want to say speaks, because it's not like he's singing a melody. In fact, my score here doesn't even have the melody written. Perhaps some do, but this score doesn't. And I guess for good reason, because how are you going to write something which isn't holding a particular pitch, at the same time is so incredibly flexible? He does have a pitch. I'm not saying that he has no pitch. It's a tricky thing to do, to deliver something like this and make it work so well. It could have easily fallen flat and been a complete failure in the hands and voice of anyone who perhaps was a lesser musician than Dylan. But there's something intangible about his presentation that is the thing that holds it all together and makes it work so incredibly well.
Into the vacuum of his eyes and say, do you want to make a deal? How does it feel? How does it feel to be on your own with no direction?
Harmonica. I saw in the live recording that he was the one playing the harmonica. I guess I've seen a few folk musicians play and use the harmonica guitar and sing like that. But isn't it interesting how his voice has very much the same timbre as the harmonica? They're both a bit reedy in their sound quality. They both have this very, very fine, narrow, and concentrated point of sound. And the pairing is incredibly great. I guess I would have enjoyed hearing him mix a little more harmonica in between with his voice, but I understand that, at least in this song, it doesn't make sense. But I will be listening to more Bob Dylan, and I'm curious to see if maybe he uses more harmonica in some of his songs or intersperses more voice and harmonica, because I think he pairs them incredibly well.
Jugglers and the clowns when they all did tricks for you. Never understood that it ain't no good. You shouldn't let other people get your kicks for you. You used to ride on a chrome horse with your diplomat, who carried on his shoulder a Siamese cat.
Now, I'm not sure I'm understanding what's being talked about here. In my mind, this makes me think of a circus. Chrome horse with your diplomat, but a diplomat in a circus? I'm not sure I understand this. Perhaps there are some other references that I'm missing. The idea of this woman riding on a chrome horse. Oh, actually, a chrome horse. Would that be a vehicle? Would that be a car? Would that mean that she is with an upper class personage? Is this... Maybe that's more. And this... But that's an interesting thing to think of it in terms of a circus and entertainment. At the same time, a real life experience where she was basically swindled by somebody very well off. And yes, the jugglers and clowns. I guess that's why I came up with this circus idea. But now as I'm thinking about it, I think that it's alluding to something a bit different. A chrome horse, maybe a fancy car with your diplomat, okay? So he has an important position in the world, who carried on his shoulder a Siamese cat, some representation of luxury and self-indulgence. And ain't it hard when you discover that he really wasn't where it's at after he took from you everything he could steal? So somebody who presented himself as such, perhaps even well, these days we might call them a trafficker or a handler, but back then would have gone by a different name probably. But that's probably more what it's about here.
You used to ride on a chrome horse with your diplomat, who carried on his shoulder a Siamese cat. Ain't it hard when you discover that he really wasn't where it's at after he took from you everything he could steal? How does it feel?
There's so much intensity in that line as the guitar comes in very pointedly, and then the drums build up, and then his voice holds out everything he could steal. How does it feel? Really drives it to your core.
He took from you everything he could steal. How does it feel? How does it feel to have you on your own, with no direction home, like a complete unknown, like a rolling stone? Princess on the steeple and all the pretty people, they're all drinking, thinking that they got it made, exchanging all precious gifts, but you better.
In the background of all this musical support to his voice, there is something which is even supporting the instruments that I've commented on. And it's very subtle, and yet it is giving us this impression of a lot of dimension, and that is that organ. If you listen to it, sometimes it sounds like some squeaky violins. Sometimes you can hear that it is one of those old organs with the little quaver in its voice. And it also is adding some depth and dimension and perspective to this whole musical setup. And so we end up with multiple layers. We have the organ supporting the instruments, and then we have all the instruments supporting the voice. And you could even take it a bit further and say that most of the instruments are supporting. Here, let's listen to a little bit of it here.
Princess on the steeple and all the pretty people, they're all drinking, thinking that they got it made.
We could say that the organ is supporting the bulk of the instruments. The bulk of the instruments are supporting the guitar, and the guitar is supporting the voice or the harmonica, depending on which one he is doing. You can layer it in different ways, but there are at least 3 significant layers. At least the organ, the instruments and the voice/harmonica. You can decide where you want the guitar, you can decide where you want the drums. They feel kind of on the same level with me, so I would place them similarly.
Princess on the steeple and all the pretty people they're all drinking, thinking that they got it made. Exchanging all precious gifts, but you better take your diamond ring. You better pawn it, babe. You used to be so amused at Napoleon and Rex and the language that he used. Go to him now, he calls you, you can't refuse. When you ain't got nothing, you got nothing to lose. You're invisible now, you got no secrets to conceal. How does it feel? Ah, how does it feel to be on your own with no direction home, like a complete unknown, like a rolling stone?
The harmonica. In spite of its incredible simplicity, it's an incredibly powerful and compelling song. Not because of any musical development or handling of the music in any special way. It's about the presentation of the ideas found within the lyrics. And I begin to understand why he won a literature prize, because that is the focal point, at least of this song. This is only the first song I've listened to by Bob Dylan, and I'm eager to explore more, and I will be very soon here. And the other thing I want to say is that it's easy for us now to dismiss something like this as rather ordinary, because we've heard music from bands like Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, Dire Straits, Queen, all of those bands which came after this and developed the musical content so deeply. But as many of you have said, and you've told me over and over again, Bob Dylan changed the world of music at his time. And from what I've heard before and what I've listened to after, I can appreciate the significance of a song like this. Because, and another thing that we are accustomed to now is this idea of artists getting politically and socially involved and using their voices and their platforms to speak and influence and have an impact on present day issues. That wasn't such a common thing back then. Even going back to the classical music, it's not unheard of. Even Beethoven wrote something inspired by Napoleon, and then he was so upset with what happened there that he tore up the title page or scratched out the dedication and renamed it. And so it's not completely unheard of to have commentary, musical commentary, artistic commentary on these kinds of issues. But to have somebody using their platform to try to influence, That is something very new. And I guess I feel like what I'm seeing here is probably one of the first, if not the first. Again, I'm not an expert. I don't know all the timelines of everybody, but this is one of the first examples in popular music of an artist stepping up to the microphone and using his voice to influence the audience towards being aware of and taking hold of these issues. And he doesn't say, you should do this, you should do that, you should take this action, we should protest this. He doesn't do that. He does it much more effectively from my perspective, because I am a person with my own convictions and my own beliefs and my own desire to have an impact. I don't want somebody coming to me and telling me, you should protest this because of this, or you should boycott this because of this. I don't want some simplistic action handed to me on a plate, and I am somehow a bad person if I don't take that action. And perhaps I have reasons for not taking that action, even because I think that something needs to be addressed. All I'm saying is he takes a much deeper and, from my perspective, more effective approach by simply making these issues visible and making us feel them and making us understand them and putting them in front of our eyes where we cannot ignore them. And then it's up to us to choose what the action is that is most effective for us to take towards the problem. I appreciate that in an artist. And I think that that is also an example of some of the impact that he had, not only in the world, but on artists in general, musicians in general, because now everybody wants to have a say, wants to stand up for something, wants to promote what is the right response, at least from their perspective, towards the various issues. And so all of this, I feel like I want to say we should remember the time from which this came in order to appreciate it most fully. Because looking at the music, I pointed out some of the things along the way, but there's really not a lot there. Harmonically, melodically, rhythmically, it's very, very basic. It's not trying to be innovative in any of those fields. It's not trying to make a mark for history in any of those areas. It's simply using the tools at hand to achieve the desired end. And it does that incredibly well. And I appreciate it. And I guess I have to say I even like it. Although it's not the kind of feel-good music you turn on. But there's a lot of music that's not feel-good music. And yet it's very, very compelling and it pulls you towards it. And this is one of those. And that is something that I really appreciate, is when a piece of music is so compelling, you're drawn towards it and you cannot stay away from it. You cannot avoid it. You cannot resist it. You cannot sit back and be apathetic towards it. You also can't just turn it on and dance to it and call it good. If you're going to turn it on and dance to it, Well, dancing to this, I'm thinking, that'd be kind of hard to do. That's not what it's meant for. You can go do that with Twist and Shout. You can go do that with She Loves You, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 go on, dance. And then turn this on the next morning and get up and do something. Well, there I have my very first exposure to Bob Dylan, and I have to say that I'm eager to explore more of his work because I see that it has a lot of depth to it. And so, I will see you next time.